This is a lesson for Wheelock chapter 17, which begins on page 139. And we're doing the relative pronoun, so the pronoun that relates one clause to another. So as a pronoun, it of course has forms for all 5 cases in all 3 genders, both singular and plural. So the masculine, qui, cuius, cui, quem, quo, and the plural, qui, quorum, quibus, quos, quibus. The feminine, quae, cuius, cui, quam, qua, and the plural, quae, quorum, quibus, quas, quibus. And the neuter, quod, cuius, cui, quod, quo, and quae, quorum, quibus, quae, quibus. So these endings are very similar to illa, alias, are and those other nouns with the genitive and ius, ius, ius. And the thing about relative pronouns that throws people off is this. You know, the forms are pretty straightforward. The forms you pretty much already have memorized. They fall along with other noun and pronoun forms. But the relative pronoun, unlike an adjective, the relative pronoun agrees with its antecedent, that is the word that goes before it, and we're going to look at an example in a moment, in gender and number, but its case is determined by its own usage and its own clause. So for example, let's say the girl to whom he gives the book is lucky. Let's look at this in English first. The girl is the subject of our sentence. So in Latin, that's going to be in the nominative. The girl, to whom he gives the book, is lucky. The girl is lucky. That's our sentence. That's the verb, is, and the nominative, the subject, girl. The girl is lucky. That's the sentence. All this stuff in between, this is a relative clause. It's a clause that's related to and connected to the main sentence. So the main sentence is the girl is lucky. The relative clause is to whom he gives the book. So the 2 sentences, if you want to think of it this way, that are being related are the girl is lucky and he gives the book to her. So how do you connect these 2 things together? Well, you take this to her, and that's going to come into our sentence that we want to make into one sentence, to whom. So whom in English is called the objective case. It's doing what the dative and the accusative do, and the genitive for that matter. The girl to whom he gives the book. You don't say the girl to who he gives the book, because who is nominative. You have to say to whom. So it takes its case from its own usage. So who is the nominative? The girl we said is nominative, so you would maybe expect who to be in the nominative. But it can't be, because in its own clause, it's the indirect object. The girl to whom he gives the book is lucky. Okay, so here's that sentence in Latin. Puella cui librum dat est fortunata. So, nominative puella, the girl. There's its verb, is. The girl is lucky, fortunata. But cui, the relative pronoun, dative, to whom. Where the dative indicates the indirect object, we translate it with to or for. The girl to whom he gives the book, librum dat. The girl to whom he gives the book is lucky. Here's another example. Vir de quo dicebas est amicus carus. The sentence is vir est amicus carus. The man is a dear friend. And we'll put our relative pronoun in square brackets again. That's the relative clause. De quo dicebus. Of whom you were speaking. The man of whom you were speaking is a dear friend. Okay, so, and of course, there are all these cases, because in any one of those cases will be needed at any given time. So let's take a look at another example in our translation for the week. First, find the verb, parse it, and translate it. Puer matrim temebat, quae eam saepa negligebat. So look at this. I have two verbs now. Temebat, negligebat. And there's my relative pronoun. So what we're going to have to start to do now, that we're getting into more complicated Latin, is we're not only going to be we're not going to be translating a whole sentence at a time. We're going to translate just one clause at a time. So now we have to be able to see different clauses. And our chief key, do I have more than one clause? I'm going to look for things like, do I have more than one finite verb? Do I have a relative pronoun? And other things that might break up my sentence, like a conjunction, like and, or, but. Those things will divide clauses as well. So let's just take first the first clause. Puer matrim temebat. My verb is temebat. That bat ending tells me I'm in the imperfect. It's obviously third singular. And right now we're only dealing with the indicative and active. So he, she, or it was afraid. Was afraid. Okay, or feared. Let's make it feared. Is there a nominative for the subject? There sure is. Puer. The boy feared. Is there an accusative to serve as the direct object? There sure is. Matrim. That's accusative. The boy feared, and in English we'd say his mother. I don't have to say that in Latin. The boy feared his mother. Okay, there's my first clause. Now I need to go back and do the same thing again for this clause. Where's my verb? Negligebat. It's the same. It's imperfect, third singular. He, she, or it neglected. What's the nominative to serve as the subject of that verb? Well, the only thing in the nominative in this clause is quae, which means who. So who neglected? That's the core of our of that clause. So we'll add that to our sentence. Who neglected? And then I've got an accusative, am, who neglected him. And then saipa just means often. So who often neglected him. So there's my sentence. It all comes together. The boy feared his mother, who often neglected him. So quae is feminine because it refers back to matrim. Matrim is the antecedent. The antecedent, it just means the thing that went beforehand. Ante, went beforehand. So, and quae refers back to it, relates back to it. Puer matrim temebat, the boy feared his mother, quae, who often neglected him. Kind of a sad sentence for today. Okay, so relative pronouns, the forms are pretty straightforward. This is a new bit of grammar today. And you need to know that the relative pronoun agrees with its antecedent in gender and number. If it's feminine, if the antecedent's feminine, the pronoun will be feminine. If the antecedent is plural, the relative pronoun will be plural. They agree in gender and number, but its case is determined by its own usage in its own clause. Okay, so again, back in our sentence, matrim here is accusative. But quae is nominative. Why? Because in its own clause, quae is the subject of this verb. Okay. So straightforward forms, a little bit of new grammar. Work through a couple more of the practice of his examples on page 140 and 141. Read through that section closely. And then I think you'll, and obviously make your cards to practice these forms, make your vocabulary cards and study, and you will be ready for the quiz.